capillary bed, you can see that there is the capillaries in this area. I'm highlighting this green color areas. These are the lymph capillaries, right? And they are called close end, whereas these set of capillaries that are present here, okay, in the box, they are open-ended capillaries. So blood capillaries, they are basically open-ended. Blood capillaries are open-ended, whereas lymph capillaries are closed-ended. Capillaries are closed-ended. What is the difference between them? Oh, okay, so let me first draw a blood capillary. I'll draw the same thing that is here. Okay, we'll draw the same thing that is available so that it's even more clearer. So I have like this structure, and which is highly branched. Okay, it's highly branched. And this one again will be, again there is a branch, and this one again will be like this. Similarly, just okay, and continuing from here like this, and like this. Okay, so what is happening here? This structure is the arterioles. Arterioles. This structure is the venules. And this region are the capillaries. This region are the capillaries. Now, if you see very clearly, each capillary has two ends, right? One end opening into the veins, okay? One end opening towards the veins and one end opening into the arterioles. So, it's a bi-ended system. But if you look at our lymphatic capillaries are like this. Okay, they are like this. Then they are profusely branched and then join into the vessels. Okay, so they are directly joining into the vessels. So these are closed end. One end is completely closed. One end is completely closed. Whereas in the blood capillary, one end will open in the arteriole, one end will open in the venule. But in the lymph, one end is completely closed. So it's called as a closed capillary system. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus onto one lymph capillary and I'm going to show it to you in the diagram now. I'm going to just take, let's say, one part of the lymph capillary surrounded by cells. Maybe this region here, I'm going to take it and I'm going to show it. So here it is. What I have done, I have just taken this area of the lymphatic capillary and I have zoomed it in this diagram. Okay, so if you see here, this lymphatic vessel, it is just like a blood capillary and it is also made up of normal endothelial cells. So lymphatic vessels, they are normally made up of endothelial cells. Right, endothelial cells. Now they are close end, so you might get it out, ma'am. How is the lymph entering? Well, can you see these arrows? So through these gaps between the endothelial capillary cells, the lymph is going to enter. Okay, so it is through these gaps, according to the osmotic pressure, the lymph vessels, the lymph fluid is going to enter. Now, how is it going to enter? That's a very interesting process actually. It's a very simple process also, like a pressure gate process. Basically, you will have pressure gates and that will allow the movement into and out. I'll show you how. Can you see these cells? Now, if I have to draw these cells, I will draw it like this. I'll just draw these lymph cells. So I'm going to draw it like this. The endothelial cells of the lymph, they'll be like this. Okay. This So these are the endothelial cells, and this is how they'll be. So can you see here, there is a considerable amount of gap present. So through this gap, the fluid will enter, the lymph fluid will enter into this gap, and slowly it will fill the whole thing. So let us fill the whole thing with lymph fluid, and then we'll continue from there. So I'm going to fill the whole thing with lymph fluid. So slowly the lymph is coming from inside. The lymph has slowly, it has come and inside. Now what happens? Now, because of the entry of the lymph fluid inside, this internal lymph fluid, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these arrows now, which I've used. I'm going to just remove them. So what will do, this lymph fluid which is inside, it will start putting pressure on the endothelial walls like this. It will putting pressure on the endothelial walls. So these walls, what they do is they flap open, means there will be a slight change in them. Let us see how will be that change. Let us just change it. So they are like this, no? So because of the pressure, what happens to these endothelial walls? These endothelial walls, they will become into a structure like this. They will, because of the pressure, they will straighten up and they'll get closed like this. They'll straighten and close. Same thing will be happening in the top. They'll get straighten and close, straighten and close. And the same thing will be happening here. This also will get straightened. So now what happened? The entire capillary is closed and the fluid will not ooze out. Okay, so the flaps are open when to enter, allow the fluid inside, and once inside, from inside, due to the pressure, the flaps of the endothelial openings are closed and the fluid will remain trapped into the lymph vessel. So from these, the lymph vessels, what happens now? The lymph vessels, they will combine to form a set of structures which these are lymph capillaries, right? So from the lymph capillaries, you are having the lymph vessels, and from the lymph vessels, you will have the lymph ducts. So you are going to have the lymph ducts, and somewhere between the root, you will have structures which are called as lymph nodes. So let us see them both now. Right near the neck region, you have two structures like this, which are called as the right lymphatic duct and the left lymphatic duct. So these, can you see here, these are a bunch of vessels. So what are these? These are actually a bunch of lymphatic vessels. These are lymphatic vessels, and these lymphatic vessels, they are opening into the veins. This is the right subclavian vein and the right internal jugular vein, the left subclavian vein and the left jugular vein. So into both these ducts, your lymphatic vessels are opening in. So this positions here where the lymphatic vessels are opening into the veins, this is called as the lymphatic duct. Okay, so lymphatic ducts, these are basically where areas where all the lymph vessels merge to form a duct. Now these lymph vessels, from all the lymph vessels from the left side of the head, they and the left arm and the parts of the chest region, the lower part of the body, they all empty into the left lymphatic duct, okay, which is also called as the thoracic duct. And thoracic duct is also called as chyliferous duct. So if you can see, go back to the previous diagram that we have just seen. So this is the left duct. Okay, so you have the thoracic duct, you have the clavicant duct. So like this, you'll have many ducts, and basically what is happening is the entire lymph vessels are getting emptied into there. Okay, then the lymph from the right side of the neck, head region, arm, right part of the thorax, everything is connected into the right lymphatic duct, and right lymphatic duct empties into the venous system at the right subclavian and the internal jugular vein. So you have these ducts. So basically what is happening here, the ducts are opening. The ducts are opening into the vein. So whatever lymph fluid that has been collected by the lymph vessels through the capillary, capillaries, they are pouring it into the veins. So from the veins they'll go to the heart and then they are getting circulated. Okay, now let us see some lymphatic organs. As I've told you, sometimes from the capillaries to the vessels, before they join the veins in the ductal system, there will be these bulgy elongated structures called as lymph nodes. In fact, what happens, when you are not well, let us say when you have fever or anything of that sort, when you go to a doctor, your doctor checks somewhere near your base of the neck region. Okay, he puts two hands and he checks near the lymph region to see if they are swollen or not. So basically what he's trying to see is he's trying to see whether the lymph nodes are swollen or not. So these structures here, these are called as the lymph nodes, which when I expand microscopically, they look like this. Okay, so the lymph nodes, they have the lymph capillaries or which will open into them, and from there and on the other side they have the lymph vessels. So they are located, basically these lymph nodes, these are small nodular structures that are located along the lymph vessels. They are almost 600 shaped, they are almost 600 bean shaped structures. Okay, and they are scattered throughout the body. They are scattered throughout the body. They are present in the armpit, groin, behind the ear, at the base of the neck, at multiple regions you are going to find. So lymph nodes, actually they are located along the lymph vessels and they are rich in these kind of structures. Basically what happens is they are rich in those kind of cells which can carry out phagocytosis, means destruction of bacteria, virus, whatever harmful organisms that have been collected from the body tissues by the lymph. All their destruction happens in the lymph nodes because lymph nodes, it is rich in WBC. Okay, so that's why when you have an infection, your lymph nodes swell, because if you have a bacterial infection or a viral infection, your lymph nodes swell because it is doing more work. Your body is filled with these viruses and bacteria. So when the lymph is collecting them from the tissues and when it is taking to the nodes have to do overtime work to destroy them. So that's why they are in that swollen condition. Along with that, some other lymphatic organs include the red bone marrow, because the bone marrow is known for production of the B cells, right? The thymus, which is known for the production of the T cells, the spleen, okay, lymph nodes which we have seen, tonsils, appendix, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue or malt, all are the part of the lymphoid system. Okay, now along with the lymph nodes, the another thing that you have to understand is spleen, which is it is the largest of the lymphatic organs, and it is the reservoir of RBC and lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are basically cells which are moving in the lymph. Okay, so the spleen acts as a hemopoietic organ, and that is, it produces blood cells until the 5th month of the gestation. Along with that, you will have structures called as lymph follicles, which is the parenchymatous portion of the lymph node. And what they do is they have outer cortex which aggregates of B cell, and they are very helpful in scattering and in the production of these lymph cells later in the later stages. Right. So that's our lymphatic system and lymph.
For more content, like, share and subscribe to www.i-win.in.